Hello friends, my name is Leigh and I create videos about photography as an art and as a lifestyle. Today I have a brand new lens to share with you, and it is one that I am quite excited about. This is the just announced Viltrox 15mm f1.7 Air lens for APS-C Nikon Z mount. It's a wide aperture, wide angle prime lens for those DX bodies. I used it on my Nikon Z52 on several outings, and it's a lens that will continue to spend a lot of time on this camera because it's compact, it's lightweight, and it provides me with an effective focal length of 22.5mm at f1.7. Thank you to Viltrox for sponsoring this video. Now, let's take a look at what I captured with this setup. Street photography, interiors, astrophotography, and some landscapes, including a beautiful Grand Canyon sunset time-lapse. The first thing I did with this lens is street photography in Phoenix, Arizona. I like using a wide-angle lens sometimes for street photography, and I always love a compact setup, which is what this camera and lens gave me. I chose to set the camera to deep tone monochrome, and these are JPEG images straight out of the camera. I've been using Viltrox lenses for over 5 years, and I own many, and I've always been happy with them. But their latest lenses have really blown me away. They are innovating and creating lenses that aren't simply copies of the Nikon brand lenses. They're creating unique lenses that fill gaps in the current Z lens lineup when looking across all brands. I will link to a few videos where I discuss some of my recent favorite Viltrox lenses in the description of this video. Of course, I will also link to this lens as well so that you can learn more about it and grab one for yourself. Next, I headed out of the Phoenix summer afternoon heat and visited the well-air-conditioned Phoenix Art Museum. Here, I kept the lens at f1.7 because the museum interiors are quite dim. When I'm using my camera in a museum, I'm generally looking at what kind of art that I can create within the museum spaces. I did capture this photo of print on the wall so that you can see the depth of field that can be achieved and how the characteristics of the out of focus areas look. I was focused here on the second E in herself. Now, you may not immediately think about creating a shallow depth of field with a wide-angle lens, but you can see throughout these images that I absolutely exercise that capability. The wide aperture of the lens was particularly helpful in this completely dark mirrored room by Yayoi Kusama. You walk in among the changing lights and wander through. I even captured some video. Speaking of darkness, the next outing was astrophotography in northern Arizona during the new moon. I brought Raymond and this little kit to Wapatki National Monument, where we photographed the Milky Way, and we even went to the Wakoki Pueblo to get creative with the ruins illuminated in the foreground. Now, the location and timing of astrophotography, in this case a location with very dark skies and no moon, are almost more important than your camera and lens. But having a lens with a wide aperture certainly helps. Not to mention the clarity of this lens. Once I dialed in manual focus so that the stars were pinpoints, I was amazed to see just how sharp even the corners are. I would absolutely use this lens for astrophotography again. My last outing with the lens was to the Grand Canyon. We arrived in the late afternoon. We made our way out to Shoshone Point, and I set up for a long time lapse. There is a large wildfire at the North Rim, and you can see the massive amount of smoke billowing up and being blown away by high winds. Sadly, the lodge and a bunch of other structures over there have been destroyed. But you will see more from this outing when I share my video about the Nikon Z52. While I was using the Z52 and this Viltrox lens, Raymond was using the Z52. I always love a prime lens. They can be wonderful learning tools. You can learn about and experiment with depth of field because they typically have wide available apertures. You can exercise your composition creativity because you are locked in to one focal length. And they're usually pretty compact, so they're just easy to bring with you. Plus, they nearly always excel in terms of clarity. This lens did not disappoint. It complements one of the biggest benefits of APS-C bodies, that they're smaller and lighter weight than their full-frame counterparts. If I were to find a full-frame wide-angle prime lens that is right around f1.7 or f1.8, it would be significantly larger than this little guy. This 35mm f1.8 Nikon lens for full frame is the same size as their 24mm f1.8. Here with the Viltrox lens, I have a wonderfully capable setup, but it's so compact that I just don't have to think twice about bringing it with me. Of course, if you are looking for a different focal length, Viltrox still has you covered. I recently acquired their 35mm f1.7 Air lens, again for Nikon APS-C Z mount. It provides about a 50mm effective focal length, which is super popular for casual shooting, for portraits and street photography, and it's just as good in terms of clarity as the 15mm. In fact, I don't own a Nikon brand lens for Z APS-C bodies. I have this 15mm f1.7, the 35mm f1.7, and this absolutely stellar 75mm f1.2 Pro lens. It is a phenomenal portrait lens. I have plenty of capable lenses for full frame Z mount, but these are really all I need for my Z52. I prefer them over my full frame lenses for size alone, and there aren't any trade-offs in terms of capability. And I suppose I haven't even mentioned price. These Viltrox lenses are well priced. Like I said towards the beginning of the video, I will link to my videos about these in the description of this video. But before we all go about our days, I would love to hear from you in the comments. What is your favorite lens for APS-C, no matter the brand? Thank you to Viltrox for sponsoring this video, and thank you for watching.